Hello and welcome to another episode about the construction of the extension of Heaton Lodge Junction. My name's Simon George. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you who've subscribed to the channel in the last few weeks and months, because it's hit now 5,000 subscribers. We're getting loads more viewers, and I hope you're really enjoying following this extension or the construction of the extension just as much as I enjoy making the videos. Now, on the same note, I want to say a big thanks to Pete Waterman and the Making Tracks team. And I honestly mean that in all sincerity, because had they not bolted on another 20 foot to make their layout longer than mine, I wouldn't have started doing these videos. And I really do enjoy making them. It's given me a lot more impetus. And when you're working alone a lot of the time like I do, it really does make a difference. So thanks again to them. Thanks again to you. And please stay tuned, because there's lots coming up in the next few months. Now, in today's video, we're going to look at detail. We're going to look at some of the details on Heaton Lodge and how you can easily replicate them. And we're also going to look at progress on the cement factory, which I am really enjoying building. So stay tuned, and here we go. Right, you're looking at the new base for cement factory building number 1. Now, as I've said before in previous videos, it's one thing drawing these things out, these buildings on graph paper, and then getting them laser cut, as Tim Horn has kindly done. But it's another thing altogether when you actually come to assemble them. And I've made a big miscalculation here, because I thought this cement factory building number 1 and the garages and the silos behind it, which you can see popping up on the screen now, and these ones are in HO gauge, as we've said before, at Miniature Wonderland in Germany. This one's obviously double the size in O gauge, and it will not fit on one of these carts, or at least the base that I'm screwing above it. So what I've had to do is temporarily clamp 2 carts together. I'm going to screw this base in a few minutes on top of it to form the base for the cement factory building number 1, but it's going to take 2 carts, which means that down the whole length of this side of the layout, which, as most of you will know, I'm extending widthways, not lengthways, because it won't go any further lengthways. Widthways, it was going to be 3 foot this side and 3 foot that side. It's now going to be 6 foot this side all the way down. I've no choice, because this cement factory will take up so much room. But on the good side, it will be pretty spectacular. So anyway, I've clamped 2 of these trolleys together. I'm just going to have to get used to the fact that now it's going to be 6 foot this side. I'm going to cut this bit off using a circular saw in a minute, and this is going to form the base for the cement factory. Okay, so the base is now on the twin double carts. Screwed that to the metal, and as you can see, I'm just putting together the garages for the building number 1 of the cement factory. Yeah, do you know what? It looks huge, doesn't it? Getting these straight, these sides, has been a little bit difficult, so I've used a ruler, as you can see, just a laser level here, just to get everything pin sharp straight. Inside, it looks a bit of a dog's breakfast. I've just used some scrap wood to make sure that the plywood formers, the plywood front in that case, is absolutely straight. But you can see just how big this is going to look compared to the original one at Miniature Wonderland. What is even bigger, of course, is going to be this part of the building, which, if I pan upwards, almost does in fact hit the ceiling of the basement that we're in at the minute. So you can see I've just used a bit of wood just to prop it up there. But yeah, that is going to be quite something, with some of these windows are going to be lit and some aren't. And actually, talking of windows, scoot round the back. Again, it looks a bit of a dog's breakfast, but I've now finished wiring all these individual windows. So some of them light up where the wires are coming from, some don't. But what's important is that you stop the light bleed, so you get a really consistent light from each window, and in some cases the door. The other issue I've got is not just the size of this 6 foot by 6 foot now 2 trolleys, but is the height, because although they fit in the basement, just as you can see, if I just move these beams, if I just fit the building between the beams, we're just about okay, because we have got room, as you can see. But the problem is the lift shaft, which these trolleys roll into, and then upwards about 6 meters to get to the ground floor where the trucks are going to be assembled outside. I can't get this through the lift shaft, so I'm going to have to think of something. I think what I'm going to have to do is, unfortunately, butcher this. It's only this part of the building that's going to be an issue, and I think what I'm going to have to do is just, where that red line is, take off 6 or 7 inches so the whole thing will pass through the lift shaft. Or what I'm going to do is just make this tall building on its own base, and slide it off the trolleys each time I move the layout out of the basement here. And I'll just slide this big building onto a hydraulic platform which I've got, which you just press up and down on, it lifts up and down. It's not ideal, but I think it's the only way I'm going to do it, because it's just not going to go through the lift shaft as it is. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to do a little bit of a video in a couple of weeks' time on how I get this whole layout out of this basement, and it goes via a lift shaft. The lift hasn't worked actually for 33 years. So interestingly, what I had to do, I have got access to the lift shaft even though it's empty, and the lift is right up on the top floor and hasn't moved, as I've just said, in decades. So what I did is I bought an old cherry picker, lifted it into the lift shaft with the aid of a crane, would you believe, on my own, and then had a local fabrication company weld on a platform onto the cherry picker, which now doubles as like a lift. So I simply roll these trolleys, as you can see, onto the platform inside the lift shaft, press a button on the cherry picker, which is now equipped with this platform, which on top of it has these trolleys or carts. They lift it up 6 meters onto the next level, which is ground floor and where the trucks are waiting outside. So yeah, I'm crazy, aren't I? But anyway, there is a means to an end. But anyway, yeah, coming back to this, it's looking good. We've got the structure down. All I'm going to do at the minute is just make this structure, and then I'm going to start the detailing a bit further down the line. I just want to get the size and everything there, so I know what I'm working with. Right, so let's talk about detail. Now, I've had quite a few requests to go through the different details on Heaton Lodge. This is the phase 1 part of Heaton Lodge, of course, the one that you've all seen. And we're actually on the old sewerage works, which has been on the layout since the beginning. Now, this is actually a building which was built by my old friend who passed away a few years ago, Allan Downes, and he gave me the actual shell of it, and I basically added all the details. So let's just have a closer look at this, because hopefully you might pick up some details which you can put on your own layout. It's just a basic derelict building with old perspex, broken perspex as the old glass panes. There's graffiti on the walls, as you can see just there. And if we move over, we've got the security fence. I think I bought this from Buzz Models some years ago. And of course, the danger signs, which you can buy online, just O gauge 143, you can get them in 002, which signify the fact it's a derelict building. But derelict buildings, they're quite hard to do, but they really add something to your layout. You've also got a little bit you find this in all derelict buildings, of course, an old crate, an upturned bathtub, an old sofa, and some old Calagas bottles, etc., etc. And they all add to the overall effect. We've also got this Sherpa van, which is a favourite of mine. It's this little chap here who's fitting on a replacement sign because somebody's vandalised it. But the Sherpa van is just the old James Bond 007 Spy Who Loved Me van, which you can get on online on eBay. They come in 00 gauge and O gauge. And all I've done with this Sherpa van is basically break the front axle and just turned the wheels, weathered it, found some old transfers online for Yorkshire Water. That's how Yorkshire Water's logo used to be back in the 80s. And the actual dent in the van bonnet, from where I think Jaws dropped on the bonnet in the film, is still there. But it doesn't matter because it looks really good. And all I wanted to do was just portray an old battered Sherpa van. Talking of battered, let's move on to the Mini. Now, this Mini is an old Corgi toy, or Corgi diecast model. And all I've done here is basically take everything off it, so just unscrew the chassis, so there's just the bare shell. I took all the glazing out. And do you remember that video I did a few weeks ago using the microscopic slides, or the what do they call them now, cover plates, and they're those just thin glass slides which you used to use at school in science classes with microscopes. Well, all I did was I bought a box of those. I smashed a couple up, and then if you can just see, I'm just going to magnify this a little bit to show you. Then I've just glued in the glass into what was the gap where the original glazing was, just to make it look as though the glass has all been smashed. And I've done that on the windscreen as well. Let's just pan round, just have a look at the windscreen there. You can see the engine is actually an old truck engine that I nicked from another O-gauge truck, I think. The cat on the roof, ignore that. Somebody stuck that on as a joke. It looks more like a leopard because I think it's way over scale. And finally, what I've done is just use some bricks from a military modelling shop. You can buy these bricks in 143. Again, just search online, O-gauge bricks. And then I just glued them all together with super glue and propped up the Mini on the bricks. And as you can see, that really does give a good effect. Any die-cast vehicle that's scrap looks really good when it's made to look really rusty, etc., etc. And that is really a rundown on the Derelict sewerage works. Now, I bet you can't guess where we are now. We are actually at the bridge, which is very near where I used to train spot as a child. In fact, I am just over there, as you can see. But just going back to this bridge, I made this bridge. I'm quite proud of it, actually, because I did also, as you probably took up that cue from the opening shot, made the jack arches as well. They weren't difficult to make, and the jack arches, as you can see, are present on all all bridges of this era. You've got the girder, the main girder spar that goes across with the height warning labels, drain pipes, and actually the stonework is scribed out of Das clay, which I just rolled on the wooden shell, secured it with PVA glue, and I just scribed it with the end of a screwdriver. And it comes up really well. I think, as I said earlier, I probably put on a bit too much frost on here because it's kind of obliterated a bit of the detail. But you can see now, it really does look good. There's I don't know if you, oh yeah, you can see it. It's there's a little lamp underneath the bridge there too. But this is another favourite area of the layout that I really enjoy working with. The old the new Class 45 Peak by Hellion that we reviewed the other week. But again, this is all still in existence. In fact, I've just driven under it not an hour ago. And you can see we're going to talk about all these aspects of scenery in the next few weeks, about how to make and improve your existing bridges. Even things like this, where you've got bits of rail lying in amongst the running rails, running lines. You see it all the time, but I rarely see it depicted on people's layouts. If we scoot over to the four main lines over here, you'll see another pile of bricks there, the point motors, and quite a lot of detail in those points, which took a bit of time, but it really does look good. So there we go. Really enjoy this part of the layout. Right, last bit of detail for this week's video. We're going to cover some more details in the next video, but let's just have a look at these. We've got a BR van here, which is a Bedford TK. It is an O-gauge van. It's actually an O-gauge, now let me think about this. It was an O-gauge cab from a Hales Cakes 143 IXO model, and the actual body shell, which if I lift it off, oh no, I glued it down, I can't lift it off, so forget that. The body shell actually came from a Pete Harvey kit, from what I can remember, so I had to make this up. So it's a 1983 Bedford TK. And then we've got this little cameo scene here of the man in his cabinet. Note his coat on the hook there and the broom, etc., etc. We've covered this gas compound quite a few times in these videos, so I'm not going to go over that too much because in video a few weeks ago I showed you how to make one. And then we've got this little scene here, which is of the three men talking. And we've got the oil barrels, the bricks again. Bricks are always a favourite of mine. Old rail. We've got water. We've got the grates, of course, as well. But one thing which I'm really kind of proud of, I guess, is this concrete trunking. Again, we've covered this in a video in the last few weeks. This is kind of part filled with gravel. It's got the signal cables in there as well. Everything's ramshackle, just like you see. There's piles of gravel again there. But it's exactly as you see on the real location. We're going to cover these again in a future video. This is bracken, which is winter bracken. Each one of those bracken leaves is a brass etch, and I think it took me the best part of 4 weeks to lay, or to plant, in inverted commas, all that bracken into the side of the hill. On the real location, actually, that bracken goes another couple of meters down, but seriously, I was just having a mental breakdown trying to keep my head together to plant each one of these individually, because not only did I have to plant it, I had to bend over each end, which is what you see on real bracken, and then paint it a browny colour too. Again, I think I've probably applied a bit too much frost there, so I'm going to be taking some of that off. Fortunately, it is removable. But I do like the bracken. But I do like even more this scene here, which is one of my favourites. And then, of course, we've got the concrete trunking, which I just talked about. So I think that's about it for detail on Heaton Lodge. I'm going to do a bit more of this in future. And if you can pick up any ideas to add detail to your own layouts, then that will be great. Just one more thing before we go. We've got the 50-mile-an-hour signs there. We've got an old oil drum again, more bricks. So you can't have enough bricks. Readily available in both 00 and O gauge. But yeah, one of my favourite scenes. The gas compound and the old Bedford TK, which incidentally is wired up so the lights come on front and rear too. Doesn't move, unfortunately, but the lights do come on. So there we go. And just some general progress. I've lifted more of the track. As you can see, it's in piles. I probably will reuse a lot of this, even though Pico kindly donated me, as you know, a boatload of it for this project. So I will use that, most of which is concrete sleepered. This is the wooden sleepered, the old track. So I've still got all this to lift. As you pan right down the bottom, it goes back there about another 30, 40 meters. So still a lot to lift, still a lot of work to do. But yeah, I'm enjoying myself, and that's the main thing. you know what? It makes such a difference turning those lights down, doesn't it? Anyway, thanks again for watching this week. Much appreciated as ever. Please like and subscribe. It makes such a difference if you can subscribe. Also, on top of that, just want to say a big thanks to all of you that are still donating on the crowdfunding campaign. The link for that is in the description. Funnily enough, I'm just actually going through the process of getting everybody's names who has donated put onto a miniature etch, which I'm going to put on the side of one of the buildings before the layout goes out. So I just thought that was a nice thing to do. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great weekend.